In a distant corner of the Milky Way galaxy, the mighty Zorgon alien Armada patrolled their territory. With thousands of heavily armed warships, they were the unquestioned masters of this region of space. No one dared to challenge their supremacy. One day, long-range sensors on the Zorgon flagship picked up a tiny blip entering their star system. Admiral Zoltar, the proud commander of the Armada, squinted at the screen in disbelief. "Magnify the image," he ordered his subordinate. As the visual zoomed in, Zoltar let out a hearty laugh. On the screen was a small fleet of primitive-looking ships, at least by Zorgon standards. They appeared minuscule compared to the gigantic Zorgon destroyers and battlecruisers. "Look at those puny ships," Zoltar exclaimed, pointing at the screen. What backwater species would dare venture into Zorgon space with such a pathetic excuse for a fleet? The bridge crew joined in their admiral's laughter. The idea that this tiny fleet could pose any threat to their armada was beyond ridiculous. "Sir, scans show those ships belong to a species called humans from a planet called Earth," reported the science officer. "Our database has limited information on them, as they are a relatively young spacefaring race." Zoltar waved his hand dismissively. "It doesn't matter who they are. No one challenges the Zorgon Empire and lives to tell about it. This is our territory." He turned to his weapons officer with a wicked grin. "Prepare to fire a warning shot across their bow. Let's give these puny humans a taste of our power and send them running back to their homeworld in terror." As the crew prepared to fire, the communications officer spoke up. "Admiral, we are being hailed by the human fleet." On screen, Zoltar commanded, eager to see the look of fear on the humans' faces. The view screen filled with the image of a human wearing a crisp blue uniform, a steely look of determination in his eyes. Zoltar noted with surprise that there was no trace of fear on the man's face. "This is Captain James Hawkins of the Earth Defense Fleet," the human began in a calm, confident voice. "You are trespassing in Earth-claimed space. Withdraw your ships immediately or face the consequences." Zoltar and his bridge crew erupted in laughter once again. The audacity of this human to make demands of the great Zorgon Armada with his meager fleet. "Foolish human," Zoltar replied, barely containing his amusement. "You dare to threaten us. We are the Zorgon Empire, conquerors of 1,000 worlds. Your pitiful ships are no match for our might. Surrender now, and we may spare your lives." To Zoltar's shock, Captain Hawkins did not cower or beg for mercy as expected. Instead, a small smile played across his lips. "I don't think you understand the situation, Admiral," Hawkins replied coolly. "We're not here to surrender. We're here to defend our territory from hostile foreign powers like yourself. I suggest you scan our ships more carefully before making threats." Zoltar signaled to his science officer, who immediately began intensive scans of the Earth fleet. A moment later, the officer's eyes widened in disbelief. "Sir, they're ships. The readings are off the charts," the officer stammered. "Advanced particle shielding, quantum torpedoes, singularity drives. This technology is like nothing we've ever encountered." Zoltar felt a growing sense of unease as he processed this information. He turned back to the view screen where Captain Hawkins awaited his response, that same confident smile on his face. The human ships suddenly looked a lot less primitive and a lot more menacing. "So, Admiral, what will it be?" Hawkins asked calmly. "Are you prepared to engage a fleet equipped with technology that makes your prized armada look like children's toys? Or will you do the wise thing and withdraw from our space while you still can?" Zoltar gripped the armrests of his chair tightly. Sweat starts to bead on his forehead as he was faced with a decision he never expected to make. A full retreat before a battle even begins. As tension filled the bridge, he weighed his options, suddenly very uncertain about the vulnerability of his once invincible armada against an unknown foe. The fate of the mighty Zorgon Empire hung in the balance at this first contact with the mysterious humans and their unexpectedly powerful tiny fleet. Aboard the Zorgon flagship, Admiral Zoltar found himself in an unprecedented dilemma. The initial scans of the human fleet had revealed technology far surpassing anything the Zorgons possessed. Yet the idea of retreating without a fight went against every fiber of his being. "Admiral, your orders?" prompted his second-in-command, a hint of concern in his voice. Zoltar hesitated, his pride warring with his tactical instincts. He had never backed down from a confrontation, but he also had never faced an enemy with such advanced capabilities. On the view screen, Captain Hawkins raised an eyebrow. "Time is ticking, Admiral. What's it going to be?" Zoltar's fists clenched as he made his decision. "We will not be intimidated by some upstart species," he declared. "All ships, battle formations. Prepare to engage the enemy." As the Zorgon fleet maneuvered into attack positions, the human ships remained stationary, their crews exuding an eerie calm. Zoltar felt a flicker of uncertainty, but quickly pushed it aside. "Fire at will," he commanded. The Zorgon ships unleashed a barrage of laser fire and plasma torpedoes, expecting to easily overwhelm the smaller human vessels. To their shock, the human ships' advanced particle shields absorbed the impacts without any visible damage. "Impossible," Zoltar exclaimed, his eyes widening in disbelief. Before he could issue further orders, the human fleet retaliated. Quantum torpedoes streaked through space, piercing through the Zorgon shields as if they were paper. Explosions blossomed across the Zorgon formation as several ships were instantly crippled or destroyed. Chaos erupted on the bridge of the Zorgon flagship as alarms blared and crew members frantically worked to maintain control. Zoltar gripped his chair, his knuckles turning white. "Sir, we've lost 30% of our fleet in a single volley," reported the tactical officer, panic creeping into his voice. Zoltar's mind raced as he tried to formulate a strategy against an enemy with such overwhelming technological superiority. The Zorgons were used to being the ones with the advantage, and now the tables had turned. "Evasive maneuvers," Zoltar barked. "Concentrate fire on their lead ship." The Zorgon fleet struggled to regroup, their return fire ineffective against the human ship's robust defenses. The Earth vessel, commanded by Captain Hawkins, deftly outmaneuvered the lumbering Zorgon warships, striking with surgical precision. As the battle raged on, it became increasingly clear that the Zorgons were outmatched. Their once mighty armada was being systematically dismantled by a smaller, yet vastly superior force. "Admiral, we can't sustain these losses," urged his second-in-command. "We need to withdraw." Zoltar slammed his fist on the armrest, frustration and desperation boiling over. He had never retreated from a battle, but he also had a duty to preserve what remained of his fleet. With a heavy heart, he gave the order. "All ships, fall back. Initiate emergency jump to hyperspace." As the battered Zorgon fleet limped away from the battlefield, Captain Hawkins appeared on the view screen once more. "Wise decision, Admiral," he said, his tone more respectful than gloating. "I hope this encounter has taught you not to underestimate humanity. We may be a young species, but we are not to be trifled with." Zoltar met Hawkins' gaze, a grudging respect mingled with the bitter taste of defeat. "This isn't over, human. The Zorgon Empire will not forget this humiliation." Hawkins nodded solemnly. "And Earth will be ready to defend itself, should you choose to return. But perhaps in time, our species can find a path to peaceful coexistence." As the communication ended and the human fleet disappeared from view, Zoltar was left to ponder the shocking turn of events. The Zorgon Empire had suffered its first major defeat in centuries, and at the hands of a species they had grossly underestimated. It was a harsh lesson, but one that Zoltar knew he must learn from. The universe was changing, and if the Zorgons hoped to maintain their power, they would need to adapt and evolve. For now, however, he had to face the consequences of this failed campaign, and the blow to his people's pride. The road ahead would be difficult, but Zoltar vowed that the Zorgon Empire would rise again, stronger and wiser than before. As the battered fleet limped back to Zorgon space, The weight of an uncertain future hung heavy on Zoltar's shoulders. News of the Zorgon Armada's humiliating defeat spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Species that had long lived in fear of the Zorgons might now whispered of the tiny human fleet that had brought the Empire to its knees. On Earth, Captain James Hawkins and his crew were hailed as heroes. The Earth Defense Fleet, once considered a mere formality, now found itself at the center of attention. Governments worldwide pledged their support, pouring resources into bolstering humanity's spacefaring capabilities. However, even amidst the celebrations, Hawkins couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was only the beginning. He knew that the Zorgons would not take this defeat lightly, and that they would be back, seeking revenge. In the weeks that followed, Earth's intelligence networks buzzed with activity. Reports filtered in of Zorgon ships massing near the border of human space, their numbers growing by the day. It seemed that a second confrontation was inevitable. Hawkins found himself once again at the helm of Earth's defense, coordinating with military leaders and scientists to prepare for the coming storm. New ships were hastily constructed, incorporating the latest advancements in human technology. As tensions mounted, a surprising development occurred. A small, unassuming vessel from an unknown species arrived at Earth, requesting an audience with humanity's leaders. The aliens introduced themselves as the Galari, a race that had long been oppressed by the Zorgons. "We have come to offer our assistance," the Galari ambassador said, its voice a melodic trill. "For generations, our people have suffered under Zorgon rule, but we never had the strength to resist. Your victory has given us hope." Hawkins and the Earth Council were initially wary of this unexpected ally, but the Galari proved their sincerity by sharing valuable intelligence on Zorgon tactics and technology. It soon became clear that the Galari's knowledge could be the key to evening the odds in the coming battle. As the two species worked together to fortify Earth's defenses, a sense of camaraderie grew. Human and Galari engineers collaborated on new ship designs, melding the best of both species' technologies. Pilots trained side by side, learning from each other's unique skills and experiences. All the while, the Zorgon threat loomed on the horizon. Reports indicated that the Zorgon Armada had swelled to an unprecedented size, dwarfing the fleet that had first encountered humanity. It was clear that they were preparing for an all-out assault. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than anyone expected. Zorgon ships emerged from hyperspace on the outskirts of human space, their numbers blotting out the stars. At the head of the Armada was a massive new flagship, bristling with weapons that dwarfed anything the humans had seen before. Aboard the flagship, Admiral Zoltar stood tall, his eyes blazing with determination. He had spent every waking moment since his defeat preparing for this moment, vowing to restore the Zorgon Empire's honor and crush humanity once and for all. As the two fleets faced off against each other, Hawkins couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. Only this time, the stakes were even higher. The fate of not just humanity, but countless other species oppressed by the Zorgons hung in the balance. The battle erupted with a fury that shook the very fabric of space. Human, Galari, and Zorgon ships clashed in a dizzying array of weapons fire and daring maneuvers. Despite the Zorgons' overwhelming numbers, the Human-Galari alliance held their ground, their advanced technology and shared resolve proving to be a formidable match. At the heart of the conflict, Hawkins and Zoltar found themselves locked in a personal duel, their ships dancing around each other in a deadly game of cat and mouse. The two commanders pushed themselves and their crews to the limit, each determined to emerge victorious. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the outcome would hinge on the actions of a few brave individuals. The unity and courage displayed by the Human-Galari alliance in the face of overwhelming odds would be the key to their survival. With the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance, Hawkins and his allies fought with everything they had, knowing that failure was not an option. The future of humanity and countless other species depended on their success. In that moment, as the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, the stage was set for a climactic showdown that would determine the course of history. The battle between the Human-Galari alliance and the Zorgon Armada reached a fevered pitch. Ships on both sides were destroyed in spectacular explosions, their debris littering the battlefield like a macabre work of art. At the center of the chaos, Captain James Hawkins found himself in a desperate struggle against Admiral Zoltar's flagship. The two ships exchanged volleys of fire, their shields straining under the onslaught. Hawkins gritted his teeth as his ship shuddered from another impact. "Divert all power to forward shields and weapons," he ordered, his crew working frantically to keep the ship in the fight. Just as it seemed that the human ship would be overwhelmed, a squadron of Galactic fighters swooped in, drawing fire away from Hawkins and giving him a momentary reprieve. Seizing the opportunity, Hawkins rallied his crew. "We need to take out Zoltar's flagship," he said, his voice filled with determination. "It's the only way to end this." The human and Galactic forces regrouped, forming a tight formation around Hawkins' ship. Together, they pushed forward, carving a path through the Zorgon lines toward the massive flagship. Aboard his ship, Admiral Zoltar watched the approaching Allied forces with a mixture of anger and grudging respect. He had underestimated the humans once before, a mistake he did not intend to repeat. "Concentrate all fire on that human ship," Zoltar commanded, his voice booming across the bridge. "I want Hawkins destroyed." The Zorgon flagship unleashed a torrent of weapons fire, its immense power tearing through the void of space. Hawkins' ship shuddered under the assault, its shields barely holding. Knowing that time was running out, Hawkins made a daring decision. "Prepare for ramming speed," he ordered, his crew looking at him in shock. "We're going to take Zoltar out, even if it means sacrificing ourselves." As the human ship accelerated toward the Zorgon flagship, Zoltar's eyes widened in disbelief. "What are they doing?" he demanded, a hint of fear creeping into his voice. In a last-ditch effort to stop the human ship, Zoltar ordered all weapons to focus on Hawkins' vessel. Laser fire and plasma torpedoes slammed into the human ship, its shields failing and hull buckling under the onslaught. But Hawkins refused to yield. With a final burst of speed, his ship slammed into the Zorgon flagship, the impact sending both vessels careening away from each other. Aboard the Zorgon ship, Zoltar was thrown from his command chair, sparks and flames erupting around him. Alarms blared as the flagship's systems went haywire. The once mighty vessel, now a crippled wreck. On Hawkins' ship, the crew scrambled to assess the damage. Miraculously, they had survived the collision, but their vessel was in dire straits. Life support systems flickered, and the engine sputtered dangerously. As the two damaged ships drifted apart, the battle around them began to turn. Seeing their flagship crippled and their admiral defeated, the Zorgon forces fell into disarray. The human-Galactic alliance pressed their advantage, picking off the disorganized Zorgon ships one by one. In the midst of the chaos, a transmission came through on the human ship's damaged communications array. It was the Galactic ambassador, its voice filled with a mix of joy and concern. "Captain Hawkins, are you all right?" the ambassador asked, relief washing over its features as Hawkins' battered face appeared on the screen. "We're alive, but badly damaged," Hawkins replied, wincing as a surge of pain shot through his body. "What's the status of the battle?" The ambassador's expression brightened. "The Zorgon forces are in full retreat. Your brave actions have turned the tide. The galaxy owes you a debt that can never be repaid." As the news of the human Galactic victory spread, cheers erupted across the Allied fleet. Ships from both species converged on Hawkins' crippled vessel, ready to render aid and honor the heroes who had saved them all. In the aftermath of the battle, the once mighty Zorgon Empire found itself in tatters. With their flagship destroyed and their admiral captured, the remaining Zorgon forces scattered, their hold on the galaxy broken at last. For Hawkins and his crew, the road to recovery would be long and difficult. But as they looked out at the stars, they knew that their sacrifices had not been in vain. They had shown the galaxy that humanity, alongside their allies, was a force to be reckoned with. As the Alliance began the hard work of rebuilding and forging a new era of peace, Hawkins couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. The tiny human fleet, once laughed at by the mighty Zorgon Armada, had proven that courage, determination, and unity could overcome even the greatest of odds. With a smile on his face and hope in his heart, Hawkins looked to the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For now, at least, the galaxy was finally free. In the weeks following the decisive battle against the Zorgons, the Human-Galari Alliance worked tirelessly to secure a lasting peace. Diplomatic envoys were dispatched to the far reaches of the galaxy, seeking out species that had long suffered under Zorgon rule. One such species was the Korlax, a race of brilliant scientists and engineers who had been forced to develop weapons for the Zorgon war machine. When the Alliance reached out to them, the Korlax were initially hesitant, fearful of retribution from their former oppressors. However, Captain James Hawkins himself traveled to the Korlax homeworld, determined to convince them that a new era had dawned. In a series of impassioned speeches, he spoke of the bravery and sacrifice that had brought down the Zorgon Empire, and the need for all species to stand together in the face of any future threats. Moved by Hawkins' words and the promise of a brighter future, the Korlax agreed to join the Alliance. Their advanced technological prowess would prove invaluable in the years to come. As more and more species flocked to the banner of the Alliance, a new sense of unity and purpose spread across the galaxy. Trade routes were established, cultural exchanges flourished, and the once disparate races began to see themselves as part of a greater whole. At the heart of this new order was the Earth-Galari partnership. The two species had forged an unbreakable bond through their shared struggle against the Zorgons, and now they worked hand in hand to guide the Alliance forward. For Hawkins, the transition from military commander to diplomatic leader was not an easy one. He had spent his entire life training for war, and the art of peacetime politics was a new and daunting challenge. But with the support of his crew and the wisdom of the Galari ambassador, Hawkins soon found his footing. He became a symbol of hope and unity, a living embodiment of the ideals that the Alliance stood for. As the galaxy entered a new age of peace and prosperity, Hawkins couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. The once tiny human fleet, laughed at by the mighty Zorgon Armada, had become the catalyst for a revolution that had changed the face of the galaxy forever. But even as he celebrated the Alliance's triumphs, Hawkins knew that their work was far from over. There were still challenges to be faced, new frontiers to be explored, and old wounds to be healed. One of the most pressing issues was the fate of the defeated Zorgons. Many within the Alliance called for harsh retribution, demanding that the Zorgons pay for their crimes against the galaxy. But Hawkins, true to his principles, argued for a different path. He believed that the Zorgons, too, deserved a chance at redemption, a chance to be part of the new order that was taking shape. In a historic summit, Hawkins met with the remnants of the Zorgon leadership, including a chastened and humbled Admiral Zoltar. In a tense and emotionally charged meeting, Hawkins laid out his vision for a galaxy where all species, even the Zorgons, could have a place. To the surprise of many, Zoltar and the other Zorgon leaders agreed to Hawkins' terms. They pledged to dismantle their war machine, to make reparations to the species they had wronged, and to embrace the principles of the Alliance. It was a stunning victory for Hawkins and a testament to the power of forgiveness and reconciliation. As the Zorgons began the long and difficult process of rebuilding and reintegrating into galactic society, Hawkins knew that true peace would take time and patience. But he also knew that the Alliance, with its newfound strength and unity, would be there to guide them every step of the way. The galaxy had entered a new era, one where the once mighty Zorgon Armada was but a distant memory, and where the tiny human fleet had become a symbol of hope and courage for all. As Hawkins looked out at the stars, he knew that the future was bright. The road ahead would be long and not without its challenges, but with the support of his allies and the strength of their shared convictions, he knew that anything was possible. And so, with a smile on his face and a sense of pride in his heart, Captain James Hawkins set course for the next great adventure, ready to lead the galaxy into a new and better tomorrow. Years passed, and the galaxy enjoyed an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity under the guidance of the Human-Galactic Alliance. The once fractured races worked together to solve common problems, explore new frontiers, and build a brighter future for all. But even as the Alliance flourished, Captain James Hawkins knew that the universe was full of surprises, and so, when a mysterious distress signal emanated from an unexplored region of space, he didn't hesitate to investigate. Assembling a crew of his most trusted allies, including representatives from the Galactic, Orcs, and even the reformed Zorgons, Hawkins set out to unravel the mystery. As they ventured deeper into the unknown, they encountered a sight that none of them could have prepared for. A massive alien structure floated in the void, its surface covered in strange, glowing symbols. It was unlike anything the Alliance had ever encountered, a technological marvel that defied explanation. As Hawkins and his crew cautiously approached the structure, they were suddenly caught in a blinding beam of light. In an instant, they found themselves transported inside the alien construct, their ships dwarfed by the cavernous interior. And there, waiting for them, was a being of pure energy, its form shifting and pulsing with power. It introduced itself as the Overseer, the last remnant of an ancient civilization that had once ruled the galaxy. The Overseer spoke of a time long past, when its people had achieved a level of technology and understanding far beyond anything the Alliance had ever known. But they had also faced a terrible threat, a force of destruction that had consumed entire star systems and threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality itself. To stop this threat, the Overseer's people had sacrificed themselves, pouring their essence into the creation of a weapon capable of defeating the enemy. But in doing so, they had left behind a shattered galaxy, one that would take eons to recover. Now, the Overseer explained, the threat had returned, and this time, it was up to the Alliance to take up the mantle of defenders of the galaxy. The ancient weapon was the key to stopping the enemy, but it required a special kind of power source, one that only the Alliance could provide. Hawkins and his crew were stunned by the revelation. The fate of the entire galaxy rested on their shoulders, and they had been chosen for this incredible responsibility. But even as they grappled with the enormity of the task before them, Hawkins knew that they could not turn away. The Alliance had been forged in the fires of adversity, and they had proven time and again that they were capable of overcoming any challenge. And so, with a determined nod, Hawkins accepted the Overseer's charge. The Alliance would stand against the darkness, just as they had stood against the Zorgons all those years ago. In the weeks and months that followed, the Alliance worked tirelessly to gather the resources and knowledge they would need for the fight ahead. The Orcs delved deep into the mysteries of the ancient weapon, while the Galactic and humans worked to fortify their defenses and prepare for the coming storm. Even the Zorgons, once the scourge of the galaxy, played a vital role. Their intimate knowledge of warfare and tactics would be essential in the battles to come. As the enemy drew nearer, the Alliance stood ready, and when the first wave of the enemy's forces arrived, they met them head-on. The ancient weapon blazing with power, and the ships of the Alliance forming an unbreakable wall. The battles were fierce and the losses heavy, but the Alliance refused to yield. They fought with the courage and determination that had defined them from the very beginning, drawing strength from the bonds of friendship and unity that had been forged over years of struggle. And in the end, just when all seemed lost, the Alliance emerged victorious. The enemy was vanquished, the galaxy saved from a fate worse than any could have imagined. In the aftermath of the great battle, as the Alliance began the work of rebuilding and healing, Hawkins reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. The tiny human fleet, once laughed at by the mighty Zorgon Armada, had become the saviors of the galaxy, the champions of a new era of peace and hope. And as he looked out at the stars, Hawkins knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, the Alliance would face them together, united by the unbreakable bonds of friendship and the unwavering belief in a better tomorrow. In the years that followed the great battle, the Alliance faced new challenges and opportunities. With the galaxy at peace, the member species turned their attention to exploration, discovery, and the pursuit of knowledge. Under the leadership of Captain James Hawkins, now promoted to the rank of Admiral, the Alliance embarked on a series of ambitious expeditions to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. They encountered new worlds, made contact with exotic civilizations, and uncovered secrets that had lain dormant for eons. One such expedition took them to the edge of a massive nebula, a swirling cloud of gas and dust that stretched across like years. As they approached, their sensors detected an anomaly deep within the nebula's heart. Intrigued, Hawkins ordered a closer investigation. As they ventured into the nebula, they encountered a phenomenon unlike anything they had ever seen. Amidst the glowing clouds of gas, a series of massive crystalline structures floated in perfect harmony. As they drew closer, the structures began to pulse with energy, emitting a frequency that resonated with the varied fabric of space-time. And then, to their astonishment, a portal opened before them, a gateway to another realm. Without hesitation, Hawkins gave the order to proceed, and as they passed through the portal, they found themselves in a place beyond their wildest imaginings. It was a realm of pure energy, where the laws of physics seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways, and at its center, they encountered a being of unimaginable power, the Architect, the creator of the galaxy itself. The Architect welcomed them, expressing joy at the progress the Alliance had made. It revealed that the galaxy they knew was but one of many, part of a vast multiverse that stretched across infinite dimensions. And now, the Architect explained, the time had come for the Alliance to take on a new role. They had proven themselves worthy guardians of their own galaxy, and now they were being called to serve as ambassadors and protectors of the multiverse itself. Hawkins and his crew were humbled by the responsibility they had been given, but they also knew that they could not turn away from this incredible opportunity. And so, with the blessing of the Architect, the Alliance began a new chapter in their journey. They reached out to other galaxies, forging new alliances and sharing the knowledge and wisdom they had gained. They encountered new threats and challenges, but they also discovered new wonders and possibilities. And through it all, they remained true to the ideals that had guided them from the very beginning: unity, compassion, and the belief that all beings had the right to live in peace and freedom. As the years turned into decades and the decades into centuries, the Alliance became a legend, a shining beacon of hope and an inspiration across the multiverse. And at the center of it all, guiding them with wisdom and courage, was Admiral James Hawkins, the once young captain who had led his tiny fleet against the mighty Zorgon Armada. But even as he grew old and weary, Hawkins never lost the spark of adventure and wonder that had driven him from the very beginning. And when the time came for him to pass the torch to a new generation, he did so with pride and confidence, knowing that the Alliance was in good hands. As he looked back on his long and incredible journey, Hawkins couldn't help but marvel at the twists and turns of fate that had brought him to this moment. From the humblest of beginnings, he had risen to become a legend, a hero whose name would be remembered and honored for generations to come. And as he took his final breath, surrounded by the friends and allies who had fought by his side for so long, Hawkins knew that his legacy would endure. The Alliance would continue to grow and thrive, facing new challenges and opportunities with the same courage and determination that had defined them from the very beginning. And so, as the stars continued to shine and the multiverse continued to turn, the story of the tiny human fleet and the mighty Zorgon Armada became a legend, a tale of hope and heroism that would inspire countless generations to come. Centuries turned into millennia, and the legend of Admiral James Hawkins and the alliance he had forged became a part of the multiverse's history. Countless civilizations across the stars told stories of their bravery, their sacrifices, and their unwavering commitment to the ideals of peace, unity, and exploration. But as with all things, time marched on, and the galaxy that Hawkins had known began to change. New powers rose and fell, new alliances were forged and broken, and the once mighty alliance found itself facing challenges and threats that even Hawkins could never have imagined. And yet, even in the face of these challenges, the spirit of the alliance endured. Generations of leaders, inspired by the example set by Hawkins and his crew, continued to fight for the ideals that had defined them, adapting to new circumstances and finding new ways to bring light to the darkness. One such leader was a young woman named Aria, a descendant of the Galari who had served alongside Hawkins in those early days. Born into a galaxy on the brink of chaos, Aria had grown up hearing the stories of the Alliance's golden age and had dreamed of following in the footsteps of her ancestors. As she rose through the ranks of the Alliance, Aria found herself facing a threat unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. A new power had emerged from the depths of the void, a race of beings that seemed to defy the very laws of nature. They called themselves the Nox, and they had come to claim the galaxy as their own. Armed with technology that made the ancient weapon of the Overseer look like a child's toy, the Nox swept across the stars, leaving destruction and despair in their wake. At first, the Alliance struggled to mount a defense against this new enemy. The Nox seemed invincible, their ships impervious to all weapons, their warriors imbued with a fanatical devotion to their cause. But Aria refused to give up. Inspired by the legends of Hawkins and the alliance he had built, she rallied her people, forging new alliances and finding new ways to fight back against the Nox. She reached out to the descendants of the Zorgons, the Korlax, and all the other races that had once been a part of the alliance, calling on them to remember the bonds that had united them so long ago. And to her amazement, they answered the call. Together, they stood against the Nox, their ships and weapons united in a way that had not been seen since the days of Hawkins himself. They fought with courage and determination, their spirits unbroken even in the face of overwhelming odds. And in the end, just as Hawkins had done so long ago, they emerged victorious. The Nox were defeated, their ships scattered to the winds, their power broken forever. In the aftermath of the great battle, as the Alliance once again began the work of rebuilding and healing, Aria found herself reflecting on the legacy that she and her people had inherited. The tiny human fleet, the mighty Zorgon Armada, the ancient weapon of the Overseer, all of these things had played a part in shaping the galaxy she knew. But more than that, it was the spirit of unity, of compassion, and of hope that had truly defined the Alliance. It was the belief that all beings, no matter their differences, could come together in common cause, fighting for a better tomorrow. As Aria looked out at the stars, she knew that this spirit would endure, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The Alliance had faced its share of trials and tribulations, but it had always emerged stronger, more united, and more determined than ever before. And so, as the galaxy continued to turn and new generations rose to take their place among the stars, the legend of the Alliance lived on. It was a story that would be told and retold, passed down from parent to child, from teacher to student, from one civilization to the next. It was a story of hope, of courage, and of the unbreakable bonds of friendship and loyalty that had united the galaxy for so long. And as long as that story endured, as long as there were those who believed in the power of unity and compassion, the spirit of the Alliance would never die. The end.